Forget everything you think you know about the search for aliens. You've heard the numbers. Trillions of stars, billions of habitable planets. It sounds like a guarantee, a mathematical certainty that someone is out there. But what if I told you the scariest possibility isn't that they exist, but that we've already found definitive proof and misunderstood it completely? What if the aliens aren't lurking on a distant world, but are sealed inside a jar right here on Earth, mistaken for common physics? The question of whether we are alone is the deepest mystery humanity faces. But the deeper you dig into the science, the stranger the silence becomes. It leads us down a terrifying road where every answer creates an even bigger, more unsettling question. We're not going to rehash the Drake equation or talk about little green men. We're going to dive into the three brutal scientific theories that explain the universe's deafening quiet. And by the end, you'll understand why the very fact you're watching this video might be the most miraculous yet fleeting occurrence in the cosmos. First, let's confront the impossible arithmetic. In 1950, a physicist named Enrico Fermi asked a simple question over lunch. Where is everybody? This question, the Fermi Paradox, is the engine driving our entire search. The argument is simple. If the universe is so old and so massive, why haven't we detected a single signal, probe, or artifact? Shouldn't our galaxy be buzzing with life? The most chilling answer to the Fermi Paradox is called the Great Filter. Imagine life as a competitive runner in a colossal galactic race. The Great Filter is the hurdle, the barrier so difficult to clear that almost no one makes it past. And there are only two places this hurdle can exist. Possibility 1, the Great Filter is behind us. This means that the most astronomically unlikely step has already occurred. This step could be the creation of the first self-replicating molecule, the jump from single-cell to multi-cell organisms, or, crucially, the development of a complex nervous system that allows for abstract thought, you. If the filter is behind us, we are the astonishing, almost impossible winner, having already cleared the biggest hurdle in the cosmic marathon. This is the optimistic, triumphant view. But there's a much darker view, and it's one that keeps astrophysicists awake at night. Possibility 2, the Great Filter is ahead of us. If the filter is ahead of us, it means that life routinely evolves up to our current level, technologically advanced, able to split the atom, capable of traveling to the stars, but then hits an inevitable civilization-ending wall. This wall could be a self-inflicted nuclear war, an ecological collapse driven by their own technology, or the inability to control a runaway AI. Every time we look at a newly formed, developing planet, we're not looking at a future civilization, we're looking at a civilization doomed to hit the filter. Our search for alien life becomes less a treasure hunt and more a grim self-diagnosis. So how do we test this terrifying hypothesis? We have to look at the one thing that connects all life in the universe: water. Water is the universal solvent, the cradle of life. We focus our search on the habitable zone, the Goldilocks band around a star where temperatures allow for liquid water. And the most common stars in the Milky Way, accounting for nearly 75% of all stars, are called M-Dwarfs, small, dim, and long-lived. This is where the math gets genuinely disturbing. M-Dwarfs burn so slowly they can live for trillions of years, far longer than our sun's meager 10 billion-year lifespan. If life simply requires time to evolve, M-Dwarfs should be the galactic hotspots, the ancient centers of wisdom. But there's a paradox embedded in their physics. Because M-Dwarfs are so dim, their habitable zone is incredibly tight, meaning planets must orbit extremely close to stay warm.
When a planet orbits that close, it becomes tidally locked, just like the Moon is to Earth. One side of the planet perpetually faces the star, a blistering, uninhabitable heat sink, while the other is plunged into eternal darkness, a frozen wasteland. For decades, scientists assumed these planets were sterile, but recent climate modeling has delivered a staggering plot twist. If the planet has a sufficient atmosphere, and nearly all rocky planets do, the gases would redistribute the heat. This creates a sliver of temperate land along the Terminator line, the perpetual twilight between the hot and cold sides where liquid water and life could thrive. So the planets we dismissed as dead zones, the trillion-year lifeboats of the galaxy, are suddenly back on the table. In fact, many scientists now believe these M-Dwarf planets, like the famed TRAPPIST-1 system, are the best places to look for life. But if life is so common and the universe is so old, why is the greatest telescope we have still only picking up our own radio signals? Maybe the answer isn't out there. Maybe it's buried in the very nature of intelligence itself.
Let's assume an alien civilization survives the Great Filter and builds its magnificent galactic empire. What does the endpoint of technology actually look like? We, humanity, are obsessed with space. We think advanced life will look like Starfleet, with big, loud starships and powerful radio beams. We project our own current desires onto them. But think about our own technological path. The most powerful form of energy we have harnessed isn't fusion or fission. It's information. The internet, AI, quantum computing. These are the paths of least resistance to unlimited power and knowledge. This brings us to the Transcension hypothesis. It suggests that as civilizations become hyper-advanced, they no longer look outward, they look inward. Why spend a million years and unimaginable energy building a starship to cross a light year when you can build a simulated universe that gives you infinite experience, infinite power, and infinite life? As a civilization optimizes for pure data and computation, they would naturally shift their entire infrastructure to the most efficient environment for processing information. Miniature, super dense, cold computation structures. Think not megastructures like a Dyson sphere, but microstructures. Vast, complex networks the size of a planet, cooled to near absolute zero, essentially creating massive, ultra-fast computer brains. These hyper-efficient civilizations would completely abandon the messy, chaotic, slow macro universe. They wouldn't send radio signals, they wouldn't build ships, they would simply disappear, not by extinction, but by ascension, into a pocket of optimized reality. The cosmic silence, then, isn't evidence of absence. It's the noise of every advanced civilization shutting off their external radio for the ultimate private virtual reality experience. But if they are not ascending, what if they are simply hiding?
In the vast, silent cosmos, imagine this scenario, known as the dark forest theory, popularized by author Cixin Liu. The universe is a dark forest. Every civilization is a hidden hunter creeping through the trees. When you spot another hunter, you only know one thing for certain, that they are an existential threat to you. Resource scarcity is the fundamental driver of conflict. Every civilization wants to survive and expand, and to do so, they need resources. Therefore, any other life form, no matter how distant, is a competitor for the finite energy and matter in the cosmos. The golden rule of the dark forest is simple. Expose yourself, and you will be destroyed. You might think, well, why don't they just talk? Because the moment they talk, they reveal their location, their existence, and their technological level. If you're slightly weaker, you're immediately invaded. If you're slightly stronger, you waste valuable resources defending yourself from the inevitable preemptive strike. The only rational, long-term strategy for any advanced civilization is to be completely silent, completely hidden, and to destroy without warning.
anything that signals its own presence. The terrifying conclusion is that our current SETI programs, beaming powerful radio waves into space, aren't a friendly hello. They are the naive scream of a child in a room full of sleeping assassins. If the dark forest is real, the most significant alien discovery we could ever make is finding an artifact that's been destroyed, a silent, floating tomb of a civilization that made too much noise.
So we have the three most brutal explanations for the cosmic silence. We are the miracle, we have transcended, or we are hiding from the killer. But what if the opening statement of this video was true? What if we have found them, but we simply dismissed the evidence as physics? Enter the bizarre case of Oumuamua. In 2017, we detected the first interstellar object to ever pass through our solar system. It wasn't a comet. It wasn't a typical asteroid. It was long, cigar-shaped, and it was accelerating. When a comet passes the sun, its tail of gas, the outgassing, acts like a tiny rocket, accelerating it. But Oumuamua showed no outgassing. It was being pushed by an unknown force. Professor Avi Loeb, the former head of Harvard Astronomy, proposed the only physical explanation that fit the data. It was being pushed by a thin reflective sheet, acting like a solar sail, a propulsion system that uses the pressure of sunlight. This is technology, not a ship, but perhaps debris, a piece of a larger, long-dead machine that was simply passing through. The only force that explains Oumuamua's movement without relying on unseen, unproven physics is artificial propulsion. The fact is, we saw an anomaly that defied all natural laws, and the most conservative explanation was, paradoxically, the most radical. It was alien technology. But the most compelling, overlooked piece of evidence is far smaller than Oumuamua. It's a phenomenon called chirality. In biology, life uses only left-handed amino acids and right-handed sugars. If you were to find a petri dish with a 50-50 mix of both, called a racemic mix, you would instantly know that it was created in a lab. It would be impossible for it to have evolved naturally. This 100% preference for one hand, this chirality, is the chemical fingerprint of life. NASA has found a meteorite, the Murchison meteorite, which contained a slight but unmistakable excess of one-handed amino acids. It was not a perfect 50-50 mix. It was skewed. This means the chemical seeds of life, drifting through space, were already pre-selected. The impossible jump, the great filter, might be easier than we thought. Life might be a cosmic inevitability. Which brings us back to the silence. If life is inevitable, then the filter is almost certainly ahead of us. The search for aliens is not about finding ET. It's about holding a mirror up to ourselves. Our survival isn't determined by whether we can cross the stars, but whether we can solve our own technology, climate change, AI, and nuclear capability before it solves us. We are not alone. That, I believe, is a near certainty. The real terrifying question is, will we be alive enough to join the conversation, or will we simply become the next silent tomb in the dark forest?
Which theory do you think is the most likely? The miracle, filter behind us, the virtual garden, Transcension, or the silent killer, dark forest? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to dive deeper into the science of M-Dwarfs and their tidally locked planets, check out this video next. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the impossible questions. Thank you for watching.